You can go ahead.
I just lost my screen here. One sec. There we
Yes,
go. Okay, calling to
it's,
order. I'd like to do a land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga and Anishinaabeg territory and is traditional territory of the Mississauga. Municipality of Brighton also acknowledges that Mississauga nations are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I'd like to call for an approval of the agenda for today.
I'll approve. Herman.
Okay. Seconded?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Number 4, a declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. If anyone has a declaration, they could proceed with that now. And if not, then how about an approval of our minutes for January 22nd recreation meeting?
I'll approve.
And a seconder?
I'll second. Herman.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any delegations waiting on my screen here. So I think we can proceed to number 7, our business, our feasibility plan, review of the adjustments, and I guess turn this over to John.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for making this virtual. I know it's nice to be together, way better, but at least at my house right now, it's coming down pretty bad, sleet and rain and snow and stuff. So I'm glad we could do it this way. And maybe it's even better in some ways because we can share screens and get a closer look at the report rather than it being just up on the screen in the boardroom. I think for starters, I need to say we were pretty late getting you guys this report, the updates. So I don't really expect you to have read through everything, and I'm also not sure if you received the summary of what changed. So what I'd like to do in this meeting is kind of walk you through first, like what are the big changes here that have occurred, and then spend a lot of time, if we can, on kind of how we broke down the costs of the feasibility study, and then go over the concepts themselves because those have been refined based on our last meeting. So we can just get right into it. What I'll do is share my screen with the report, and I'll do that now if I can. Do I Jessica, maybe this is a question for you. Do I need permission to share my screen?
Hi, John. No, you shouldn't need permission. You should be
Oh,
able
here it is.
to.
Here's the share button.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, got it. All right, I'm going to share. And if you guys could please tell me when you see the cover page of the latest report.
Yep, got it.
I've
All right.
got it.
Excellent. Okay.
Can you
So,
blow it up, John?
yes, I will. I will.
Okay.
Just give me a sec because I also have my notes on the side, and I have the benefit of having the Word document as well, where we track all our changes with a different colored font. So as we're going through the report, just to make sure we're not missing anything major, I'll have my notes on the side. So in summary, big picture, you guys, the main things that have changed. We added a new section for parking and site circulation because I know last time we spoke, that was an item of concern. So we clarified, and I'll take you to it, but we won't spend too much time on this, but I'll take you to it. We clarified, okay, there's this many spots in the existing King Edward Park, and we think that this is a range that we want to be at for the new facility, pending what actually gets built there. So we've included some text around that. We talk about the creek corridor a little bit, but I don't think we need to go over that. It's just the language we updated to sort of say, hey, for this feasibility study, whenever design does occur, the creek is going to take some environmental and regulatory review. And that wasn't really part of this, but we have spoken with them and they know what's going on, and there were no huge red flags. Then we clarified some stuff in the functional program language, just about that there will be a twin pad possibility, and just because we spoke last time about, hey, maybe this junior A team comes in, whatever. The previous version of the report really only spoke about the second pad as kind of like a future potential possibility, where now we keep with the vague language to not tie everyone in to two pads, but we just reference it differently to bake it into something that's more part of kind of a core scope of work. We expanded some language on the interim conditions between phase one and the existing buildings. And then we go through some updated concepts, which I'll share, and we go through the costing. So taking you through this report here, I'm going to go to the sections that have changed. Like here's the 4.3 parking and site circulation section. We don't need to read that together right now. I think the highest value for us together is to look at the concepts and the money parts, okay? So just flipping through the report, we'll blow it up when it makes sense here, just continuing through it. I highlighted with some purple stuff, kind of small sections that have been updated. Like for example, we had to do a better job of describing the indoor walking track as a potential area in the facility. So we've done that. Same with the elevator stuff for accessibility. Same with phasing, which we've talked about. And if anybody ever wants to stop as we're going through this, please chime in, because otherwise I'm gonna direct us to the areas that I think are the most important. Even the YMCA stuff, we added a little piece of language to say any partnership model needs clear terms on governance, cost allowance, risk management, and just overall transparency based on our last conversation. I know that was an item that you raised, Emily, which I thought was a good item. The functional program table, we haven't really adjusted. I think we still have to tweak a couple things in here, but the intent of this is really just to show here's what we think the need is. And then Bill had mentioned, hey, can we get a cost as part of this table? We started putting it in on the bottom here, but we felt it made more sense to break it out in section 9 costing rather than in the functional program area location. So Bill, I hope you're cool with that. Okay, concept options we're going to get into here. So this might seem a little bit grainy in the report, but what I want to share here, you guys can all see this, of course. We're going to talk about the concepts as they've evolved. So let's start with this concept option number A, and we've actually since issuing this yesterday, we've added a couple more things. So one thing we spoke about last time was, okay, the twin pads need to be shown. How do those work on the site? And how does the curling club really fit on the site? So we've taken a 4-sheet curling club layout with like, and maybe just to back up, like this is just a feasibility study that we're doing here, right? So the point of this exercise in mapping things out on the site is just to show how feasible these spaces and these rooms might be on the site. What does it generate for parking, and how does that work? There will be a whole design process where people will do an actual design. So this is, I don't want us to get too tied in to the nuances of how this building might function. It's purely feasibility analysis, okay? So what we imagined was, okay, we've got the existing curling club in this dashed line. Imagine phase 1 is the light blue here. So imagine you you move the ball diamond, which we've always talked about. We need that space. Move the ball diamond. There's room for it over on the other side of the site. And you build this this kind of unusual shape here to kind of fit the curling club in between the new proposed curling club in between the existing curling club and the existing arena. And then you have a twin pad built on the back. You are staying, I think we've got 10 meters between the existing building and the new building. And maybe in phase 2, there could be a connection somehow connecting these two existing with the new. Because remember, in this scheme, this is the hybrid scheme where we keep the yellow building, which is existing, and we're simply adding to it and connecting to it. This was the hybrid option, concept A. If we do this, we have roughly, we could create a big efficient parking lot on the north, we'll call it the north lot, and you can create another parking lot to the south. We're proposing you'd get rid of that existing canteen building and washroom, because there should be a way to work that into the main building. So you're demolishing 2 buildings and you're moving a ball diamond and you're creating a twin pad with a curling club. This is inefficient, right? Like this, the way we've had to do this geometry, and you'll see a couple other options. It's not that efficient, because what you really want is to have your twin pad running parallel with each other so that you can take advantage of that interstitial space between the 2 pads for change rooms and bleachers and things. We don't really have that opportunity as much here, but what we do have is a much cleaner entry and area that kind of faces onto the park, where it's a much less kind of dangerous walkthrough from the park area, which was one of the comments we heard, is when you have all these cars parked along the edge of the park, you can't see kids running out of their cars to and from the park. So we've mitigated that with this scheme. And what I like about this is, imagine the curling club's lounge can be worked into an overall lounge, where this becomes kind of the central node where you can observe and be part of the life of these other sports and activities in the recreation center. And the existing building stays as is, with the opportunity to renovate as budget allows. And we've broken that out. Okay. So with this scheme, I think we have something like we have 300, almost 300 parking spaces versus the 190 that are currently there.
Can I step in for a minute here, John?
Absolutely. Yes, Jim, go.
I was doing the numbers because of what we said last time, and I'm thinking of a busy day with 2 rinks going and a curling club tournament. That would take 264 just for the participants.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. The reality is we're I mean, I guess it means that 300 spaces will work based on your calculations, and you'll see in another scheme we get even more. But it's a good point, and we looked at how other arenas, how many parking spaces they have, and we spelled that out in the document, just why we think that this can work. But to your point, it's going to be busy. Are you saying, Jim, that you're concerned it's not enough spaces?
Sorry,
Like 300?
I think Jim just fell off the call.
Oh, no.
Just
He was
kind
so
of-
mad about the parking that he just hung up.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
we'll
sure
get
he
him.
will sign
We'll
in.
get him back.
So if we could just pause for a moment, just because without him, we don't have quorum for the meeting.
Okay. Yep, all good.
John,
Yeah, Herman?
I have other concerns.
Yep.
Never mind I agree with your statement of the parallel rink surfaces.
Mhm.
But my concern is that you're showing parking to the east of the east-west rink, and you're showing parking just on the south of the north-south rink, which doesn't leave any spaces for servicing, for in and out traffic, for the ice equipment, for maintenance of the, like you can't have parking all around the rinks. The north end of that rink will not be an option for refrigeration equipment, etc. So I'm a little concerned about the parking lined up just to the south of the one and just to the east of the second.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
that's right, those areas.
Here, I'll circle it. Yep.
You can, any rink you see, including the one you currently have, those are service spaces that you need access to refrigeration equipment, trucks, any shows that you're loading, like a loading dock type of thing.
Yep.
So that is a concern, and I totally agree with your reference to the one pad being east-west. That's kind of great, but right now those spaces, the way they're aligned, don't allow for common spaces for dressing rooms, etc.
Yep. Exactly.
I've just never seen it done this way.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, to hit on your point there, Herman, I feel like for the feasibility study kind of analysis, I think we should make a note of that, at least in the text. The service requirements for back of house. What I want to be careful of is getting too focused on the design, because if once we go down that road, it's really hard to get off that track. And I think that your point is more useful. Well, your points are always useful, Herman, but in this case, I feel like it's more useful in how it impacts the overall viability of the parking numbers that we are
Right.
showing. And I would kind of defend the parking numbers by saying, look, we haven't even optimized, right? We're showing like a big swath of parking here, which is like 160 spaces, a big swath here, which is 140. And we have so much ability to mess around and find those spaces in other locations. Like we're not doing anything along here, for example.
Right.
You know, what's this space? This could be kind of service space if we wanted it, or we could change it. We could shift the building a little bit to make another row. So if you're cool with it, I'd like to still stick with the notion that 300 spaces are viable with a twin pad and a curling club and the existing building.
Yeah. Jim's not back on yet, right? I don't see him.
He's not back
I-
on yet, and I have emailed him and told him to give me a call if he needs assistance. But unfortunately, if we can't get him back, then we will have to end the meeting because we can't continue without a quorum.
Okay. Yeah, happy to reschedule if we need to, but maybe we give him maybe a little bit more time.
Yeah, we'll give him a little bit. I've offered for him to give me a call if he needs technical assistance, but I haven't heard back yet.
Yeah. Okay, I'm so tempted to just keep going through this thing, but I guess we shouldn't, hey?
No, we should really wait because
Yeah.
we shouldn't
Okay.
move forward without a quorum.
Yeah, understood. Herman, while we're waiting, did you get a chance to read through the section 9?
No, the one I received last night.
Yeah.
I hadn't pulled up my laptop until this morning to get it set up for Zoom. And my problem with my eyesight and my cell phone is that it's all very fine, and no matter how large I break it up, it's still difficult to read.
Yeah,
So
fair.
we can go through it. I can actually just go through it now.
Okay, so I've spoken to Jim. He's just having some technical issues. So he's going to, and he won't let him log back in for some reason. So he's going to come down to the municipal office. He's only about 5-10 minutes away. And I
Hmm.
will set him up in council chambers so he can at least continue participating. So if we just want to, everybody pause for 10-ish minutes, I will get him set up in council chambers and we'll get him going as soon as possible.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Jessica.
Good.
No problem.
So do we leave this Teams call and then rejoin, or do we
No,
stay on and on?
you can
Just
stay
stay.
here and just shut off your mics and cameras if you wish. And then I'll let you guys know when he's back up and running and we'll get you started again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
Hey, everybody, we have Jim set up in the council chambers and ready to go. So he is ready and available. And I will go turn, sorry, I have him muted. So give me a minute while I go unmute him and from the computer, and then you'll be able to start, okay?
Thanks, that's great.
You can say,
Whatever.
yeah.
Welcome
Hey,
back.
Jim,
Hi there.
that was quick.
No idea what happened, but I won't talk again so you don't push the eject button on me.
All good. Thanks for running down there so fast. Well, why don't we just keep going, everybody, if that's okay, if we have everybody back.
Herman, are you back?
I am.
Okay.
I never left.
And Emily,
Rather than screwing around.
Yeah, I'll wait until I'm given the green light.
yeah, maybe we'll just wait just a
Yeah.
minute to see if Emily joins us.
Did we lose Emily now?
Well, she's there. I just don't know if she's back
Okay.
to the screen. I don't see her and she's on mute. So I just want to make sure she's there before we get started.
I'm here, Jessica. Sorry.
Okay,
Excellent.
All right.
I was about to call you.
we're good.
All right. So where we left off, we were talking about parking. And Jim, while you were gone, or before we realized you were gone, we were just saying, you had mentioned your preliminary kind of count of 260 or something parking spaces by your calculations being required for like a hockey tournament where both pads are being used. And we were just saying, or at least I was just saying, yeah, okay, we've got 300. There's going to be peak times where all these spaces are likely to be used. But what we're trying to do with this feasibility study is make sure that we are reflecting the realities of what's required and what is possible on this site. And from our research, we think that 300 spaces is a good chunk to serve this type of facility. And we have some schemes where even more than 300 spaces are possible. Herman raised the point that, okay, we've got to be mindful of the servicing requirements to these buildings, like back of house stuff, loading, waste, all that stuff, which particularly in this scheme would be a bit problematic because of the location of some of these parking spaces that are flanking sort of the conventional backs of the buildings where service spaces could be possible. But we kind of went over that by saying, look, this is a feasibility study, and we have to be careful about getting too far into the weeds of design. Our goal here is to show what is feasible with kind of number of parking spaces, overall building area, zones of particular types of spaces in the multi-use recreational facility. And so we kind of left it at that, knowing that the design is going to change and develop as this thing becomes real. So if it's okay, I'm gonna keep moving along here just to show like we have updated some 3D stuff. We'll continue to refine this. I know it's not really part of what we need to do in the feasibility study, but we think it's important to see in context in 3D what these shapes mean. And this is an unusual shape, and there's likely better ways of doing this, but feasibility wise, it could work. We did another scheme, similar idea, with keeping the existing, but showing a twin pad and a curling rink and what the resultant parking counts are. In this one, we've got the twin pads kind of back to back, but the same idea would apply. There's another option we could do where the parking or the second pad is right beside this one. Then you'd have this kind of arrangement. Again, the feasibility of the remaining parking area is likely to be in the neighborhood of 300 spaces. Some could be here, some could be down here. It's just the organization of the space of the site. Can it achieve those goals? And I think we're showing that yes, it can achieve the goal of twin pad, curling rink, existing building to remain, and 300 spaces. I'll keep moving on unless there's any chiming in of thoughts. Here's another example of what that looks like in 3D without going too far into design. And then we get to concept B, which is the one that has changed the most significantly, because last time in concept B, do you remember we had that civic court or that civic square between kind of the north piece of the building and the south piece of the building, which was cool, but it posed operational challenges and efficiency challenges. So what we've done is we've kind of reimagined concept B. And remember, concept B is the one where it's all new, right? Where we phase the construction, so it's all new. Concept B would involve phase one, move the ball diamond and build an L-shaped single pad and curling facility. And squeeze that twin pad in between the existing building and the existing curling building, right? It'll fit with again, 10 meters of clearance all around. Once phase one is built and operational, we then demolish the existing curling club, refine the parking, and add an interlocking L shape. So this is a very compact form now that you have when it's all said and done, where you've got the rinks aligned parallel to one another. So this is the optimal kind of arrangement of a twin pad like we talked about, where you can take advantage of that long space in the middle for change rooms and bleachers. And then you still have a ton of space for multi-purpose functions and administrative functions facing the street. Some other kind of strengths of this scheme are if we've got, like I love this idea of using the curling lounge, the social aspect of the curling culture to influence the rest of the building, where it faces out onto the park. You can come in, and this is really your kind of node of connecting with all the different uses. You'd have to have a connecting piece to get up to the front of the building, of course. There'd be multiple entries. Sorry, I'm drawing all over this diagram. But we think that's a strength of this scheme. And in this scheme, you again have two main parking lots. You have your east parking lot, which has 140 spaces, and you have your south parking lot, which has 227 spaces, for a total of over 365 spaces, 367. You've got a good drop-off area. To Herman's point, the back of house becomes a challenge, but I think this can be configured in such a way to provide the required back of house functions where they need to go. There's some room to shift this object around, but that is concept B. Are there any kind of questions as to this sort of the feasibility nature of concept B?
Can you explain, John, where you've provided consideration for the YMCA and one like that from a space perspective? You know, when we talk about that extra space in the front, is there ample room there to put in things like offices or multi-use
Yes.
community
Yeah. So
space and the Y?
yeah, and I think that's a good question. So in this scheme, it again, we haven't broken down into the specifics of design, but that just to give you a sense of scale, that rectangle there is the size of a gym, right? Like the size of a basketball court. And the existing multi-purpose room, and Vicky can comment on this too if Vicky's here, but it's somewhere in this existing square. So there's a ton, in answer to your question, Alana, there's a ton of space in this volume here to have the kind of in-skin, out-skin condition, because that the Y requires, because it also nicely delineates the sort of the ice uses from the non-ice uses. So like in the scheme with the YMCA, perhaps this becomes the in-skin and the out-skin is all down here.
So quickie question, John.
Yep.
In that north section, basically, if you have a gymnasium on the one end where it's delineated there,
Mhm.
everything to call it the northeast corner, which could be your administration offices, but it could also be the Y spaces, the working spaces. Would that be a two-story, because you got a gymnasium that's going to be basically the height of 2 stories, as well as both rinks? So would that be a 2-story addition to accommodate a gymnasium where you got,
Mhm.
whether it's volleyball, basketball, it's all high.
Yep.
It's not going to be a single story drop down roof, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a great point, and could even be described in the feasibility in the report as an option for consideration. Like the fact that it's new too, like you can go more than 2 stories. Like I know we talked about it in a previous meeting, but why not offices above that? So I think there's lots you can do when you create this as a new piece that you otherwise couldn't do if it's the existing buildings. Just one more reason to carry that out as a new piece.
And I know we've had some preliminary conversation, but I expect that we will have more of a push to really consider the library in this location.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be amazing.
Wow.
It'd be amazing. And if it's right there on the corner, I think that would be so fantastic. So, and any other, these are all great points. And Jacob, you're on the call right now, right? My colleague Jacob.
Yep.
Nice, everybody. This is Jacob. Jacob and I have been working together on this thing for quite some time here. Jacob, I think we should adjust the language. If everyone's okay with this, just to adjust the language in the report to talk about that potential option of going up higher along that frontage, for example, to include a library if that ends up being something that Brighton wants to pursue. Any other?
One last
Yeah.
question. What would be in this arrangement here, what would be your focus area for the replacement community center, which obviously is the lower level right now of that phase 2 where you got proposed rink? That's coming out, but with the curling rink, which is being built before this second phase gets demolished, with the curling rink area at ground level be considered right there, that area, the community center? Just a space for the community center to have at least 200, if not 250 seating capacity.
Oh, you mean like the multi-purpose?
Yep.
The multi-purpose room?
What's now identified as the community center, which is where Probus had met yesterday with 120 people in attendance. Would that be down at
The-
the bottom there? So that it's not ever, just like the curling rink, it's not ever in a down phase. Well, we have to demolish this, but we haven't built a new one in that place yet. So for a year and a half, you're going to have to find another space. That type of deal.
I see what you're getting at.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like, well, what gets included in phase one? And to answer your question, Herman, no, we did not include that in phase one in this scheme. Phase one in this scheme is purely a rink and the curling facility. But maybe we need to add that as a consideration. It would adjust the geometry and adjust the feasibility a little bit. It would effectively, I think the end result would be that it would add more space to the object of the building and potentially require more parking, or sorry, result in a reduction of parking. And I'm just thinking through this, Herman. The other thing is, like, if the Y is truly going to be a potentially integrated element, to me, that the community center kind of space, that multi-purpose space, it would make sense that's potentially part of the in-skin, non-ice, non-rink function. And I think it makes sense to locate all those things on one end. If you have the community, the multi-purpose room, like let's say it's down here, you chunk out a little piece, which actually could work. Is that going to cause any challenges? Because now you have this non-ice function among the broader ice functions,
Right. So,
but yeah, go ahead.
so at the east end of what you're showing as your sheets of ice for the curling, you have a public, call it a viewing area. You have a meeting room, basically, right? Where the public can.
Yeah,
There. That space.
You could.
That space is exactly the same size as the current community center. You see what I'm saying?
This space
right.
here. This is
Yeah.
actually, yeah, I do hear what you're saying. This is the lounge of the curling
Right.
club. I see what you're getting at. You're wondering if, well, could the lounge
Yep.
be part of the community use? And I don't see why not. I don't see why it should just be, the whole point is not to devote it purely to curling. It should be for everyone. And that's an interesting idea. Yeah.
Yeah, because as much as we're accommodating curling by not having to demolish their current building before the new one's built, the same applies to the community center, which, the staff there can tell you, yeah, it's a busy place. It's booked 5 days of the week or whatever. There's, always a function, whether it's a holiday function, the mayor's levy, the whichever, and I'm just concerned that what other space is there in town to accommodate groups that use that?
I love that. So perhaps for the feasibility study, we make mention of that as a potential part of phase one. And it's not necessarily adding any GFA to phase one. It's simply making the point that the curling lounge and the areas traditionally devoted just to curling,
not exclusive,
become non-exclusive. Okay, well, I think that's smart, Herman, to point that out, and it'll probably alleviate a lot of concern.
Well, and the beauty of that arrangement is you've got your finished parking just to the south of that anyways. So yeah. All right.
Yeah. But then it's like, well, where does that end? Like the administrative offices, like Vicky's office, how do we, maybe there's temporary measures that can be put in place for things like that while phase two is, like, it makes me wonder, do we need to have a bit more language about what gets put in phase one? What are the what's the plan for the things that are going to be demolished, you know? So I think we can quite easily put some language in about that stuff.
You have to remember that the curling club is used 7 days a week by curling people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why we're doing the curling facility in the scheme as it's always been part of phase 1. We cannot demolish and have a year or two, probably 2 years of non-curling. But then it's just, okay, what else? What else needs to be given that same level of consideration? But these are good. Any other like I really like how this addresses the park. Like we no longer have that civic square, but maybe it's not that clear in this diagram, but we're bringing kind of a connector drive aisle to connect these two parking lots. That's the only thing that crosses this access to the park. Like, so this stuff ends up being, you have a forecourt, of some kind right there, which could be fun. And I just think it engages the park a lot nicer in that way, while still engaging the street, Okay, moving on then, if there's no further comments. And again, this one has the most parking. Let's talk about, can we please talk about money now? I'll go to section 9. So we rewrote section 9 to kind of describe, okay, these concepts are a little different now. So we describe that concept A prioritizes new construction of core elements, being the ice and curling facility, and maybe it needs to include more, followed by removal of the existing curling facility and adaptive reuse of the existing arena building, but that some of those costs for the adaptive reuse can be deferred. So we have core costs and deferred costs as part of concept A. And then concept B is much more straightforward, just being a phased new construction with demolition. So I'll try to, I don't know how much we want to really talk about this stuff and the specifics of it. These are some of the same construction cost benchmarks that we get from our, Altus cost guides and things like that. And once you have those, you have the square footage of what's being proposed, it becomes much easier to spell out, okay, what does this mean in overall dollars? So we have here, just to describe the tables to you. Oh, and Jacob, I found a little thing we got to correct. This one here. Well, I've got this markup that we can work through. This table is showing for concept A, you've got phase 1, which is the core facility of a twin pad and curling and shared support. We're saying that it's more because now we have a twin pad. This is more than last time we spoke, but between 46.5 and 52 million, depending on how things go, where we've broken out a primary ice pad is between 16 and 17.5 million. Secondary ice pad is a bit more efficient because you can reuse some things with the primary. It's between 13 and 14.5. Curling facility between 7.5 and 9 million, and then just kind of like shared connection and support for those things between 10 and 11.5 million. And then we've got costs for the demolition. I actually wonder if these numbers are too high for the demolition, but trying to be conservative. We've got parking and site circulation costs, like the full build out if it's paved, and then a gravel option for parking. And then the adaptive reuse of the existing arena, depending on what we want to do. We're just saying, okay, it could be between 1 million and $10 million. It's very hard to define that right now. So then illustrating this stuff out, if we do everything it's between 51.3 and 67.7 million. And if we do kind of deferred or only the core stuff, it can be 48.8 to 55.7 million. Does this give anybody heart palpitations seeing these numbers?
I'm sure everyone on council, if we deliver
Yes.
this.
Yes. So the question becomes like, how do we want to communicate this? Because we don't want to hide these real figures, but we also don't want to. I'm just curious, Alana. Maybe I would be very open to your thoughts of how we want to communicate this, and if we're doing it right in this report. And I'll just keep going, and you can chime in. Anyone can chime in with any of this stuff. But we then kind of break down. Okay, we've got some value engineering opportunities that could be put into play, like, you know, you could go with a more cost-effective seating arrangement or facade arrangement or interior finishes, walking track. How do we do that? You know, maybe you just put it in the existing gym and call it a day, or the existing arena. Site works and parking finishes, and how do you deal with the support spaces? So there's at this point, these numbers are just a guide, and there's a lot that can be done to whittle those down or reallocate them. And then we have just kind of like a more descriptive cost benchmark ranges for these different spaces to kind of show our work on that. And we kind of get into some key considerations, and we have some caveats in there too about like, look, everybody, this is just high level, and it needs to be refined in next steps. Concept B, remember, it's the interlocking L-shaped thing. Talking about, okay, what's different about this stuff? It's more certainty and things like that. So we kind of talk about what the characteristics are of this from a costing perspective, and including improved life cycle performance and operating efficiency because of the configuration that we're able to put into it. And I even wonder if we could add a note about, like, if the library is going in there, or if offices or something goes above that even, are there other budget buckets or other funding opportunities that can be used to add to the source of funds? And then we get into this one with the same idea, right? We've got phase one being a one pad and the curling and shared support space. We're suggesting that that's between 26 and 31 million. And these are based on also some other arenas and looking at those. We've got, and then we break that down into the primary ice pad, the curling facility, shared support spaces. These are a little less because it's a little bit smaller, I think, in this scheme than the previous concept. Then we've got phase two. How much does that cost? We've got we kind of go over a few different programmatic functions like the secondary pad, the gym, field house, running track potential, multi-purpose community room potential, admin, shared circulation, all that stuff. And we're calling those core to phase two. This, of course, might need to get tweaked. For example, if community rooms, maybe actually multi-purpose / community rooms needs to be part of phase one. So we'll take a look at that and might need to tweak this accordingly. Demolition is a little more in this case because it's, of course, we're demolishing all of the rink, the existing rink, in addition to the curling club. Parking stuff, again, could be deferrable, and there's a gravel option. So, and then we give kind of the overall costs, where if you do the full build out, we're looking between 60.8 and 76.2 million for this complete campus arrangement. But it could be as little as, I think this is incorrect here, phase one. I've got to double check this. I think this number 27.5 is if you just do phase one and you don't do phase two yet. And then and then this scenario 3 is, okay, if we do phase 1 and phase 2, but we defer some of the site finishes and value engineering, is between 57.8 million and 72.2 million. Again, showing the work of how these numbers are arrived at with the benchmarks per square foot. And again, some value engineering scope levers, the same idea. A lot of the similar stuff. But that's kind of it. And we say, okay, soft costs are excluded. SiteWorks, I think we need to change this because SiteWorks is included in that for the most part, the parking anyway. So Jacob, maybe you and I can just want to really make sure that we're showing these the way they should be. But I think that's a good overview, everybody. And then the rest of the document remains the same as before. And I think that goes over everything that we talked about together. Are there any comments? And am I still sharing my screen? Because I don't see the option to stop sharing. Oh, here it is.
I think we'll definitely have to discuss how this gets presented to council.
Yep.
Just very quickly, I think second pad is way outside of the initial build. Like there's just, at this stage, it's too much money. I think council is also going to just have to have a broader conversation about what they're prepared to subsidize. And that may include that curling rink, which, you know, might be a tough decision for council to make, but I appreciate it might be used 7 days a week, but it certainly is a drain on the taxpayer. And, you know, when we look at the number of people that it's serving, is that really where council wants to direct the tax dollars? So I think we're going to have to break it down. I do think there'll be a push to put the YMCA there, so I don't want to exclude that as an option. But other than that, really replacing what's existing with some community space and an ice pad might be the initial delivery to council with some of those options as potential future or, you know, optional add-ons. What can we do later? What has to be decided right away? We'll certainly need to have, and I understand this is a feasibility study, but at the same time, it's a lot of money. And, you know, really coming out of this, I think the message will be, how much fundraising do we have to do? And how do we get prepared for potential grant opportunities? Because the municipality is not going to be able to fund this even at phase 1, not in the next 5, probably 10 years. And I don't want to bring this forward and have the community feel defeated because the cost is so high. So I think we will have to be strategic in how we deliver it, and we'll have to be strategic from a staff perspective on what our recommendation is going to be moving forward, so that we have a plan on how we're going to put this together, but also being realistic about what can be afforded and how we're going to develop this.
Yeah, that's a great point. I wonder if in the report, like we have this section 10, which is next steps and decision path. I love the way you laid that out, Alana, of like, okay, it's kind of a sequential mode here of phase 1. Can we do it? What's the sources of funding for phase 1? And then how do we potentially move forward with the next phases? I feel like we should expand on this section 10 a little bit with some of that language, so that when this report will be public, of course, and it would be nice to share that thinking in advance. So it's not just like, here's the cost of everything and figure it out, you know? It's like, no, here's the path to figuring it out. So that sounds good. If it's okay with you, we'll take a stab at writing that out, send it to you, and make sure that it tracks with how it could actually play out.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think we just have to be mindful in the delivery, and there certainly would be some sticker shock, not only to council, but our treasurer if we throw that number out there. So it's not realistic. And I think we just have to be able to provide information on how we get there, as opposed to, here's the cost, and recognizing it's not feasible right now. So how do we get there in steps, and how are we going to fund it?
Yep. And even the why playing into that, it's just kind of mapping that out as cleanly as we can, because maybe there's opportunities there with the why for funding sources that might not otherwise be possible.
And I think there has to be. I mean, currently, 170 Main, where the Y is located, we run a deficit. There's no two ways about it. The maintenance and what we actually have for rental space that's being utilized is not, we're not revenue neutral. But for the Y specifically, if we look at what we charge on a lease rate, which I think we're way low, they are paying to use the space. Now we're also providing them with some funding. So the Y itself might be a little bit closer to revenue neutral. And I think they have to appreciate too, in a new facility, that our costs are going up, which means their costs are going up. If they choose not to be a part of that, that's okay. Or maybe they choose to do some additional fundraising and support. And, we bring them on board as a partner, and we work it that way. But I think we need to have those real conversations. And I think, council needs to really understand, and again, this will be more on a staff end, how much of this are we subsidizing from the taxpayer? Because the province isn't giving us any more money, and we need to be mindful about, running the deficit and how much, where they want to allocate those dollars.
So my curiosity, and this question is more directed at Elena, I would assume that the new arrangement in Campbellford with the Y could be a good starting point for this arrangement, minus the pool, plus perhaps a larger gymnasium, because we have the space to do that. I don't know. I don't think they have a running track, but there's other things that can substitute the pool. But whatever that arrangement is, however they kicked in their financing, should be a good starting point for Brighton.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, Herman, on that relationship. I don't know, Vicky, if that's something maybe you could investigate, how they have, how that relationship was established. Have you been into that gym, Herman?
No, not yet.
So it's a very large gym. I think if we had that size of gym in Brighton, we would be well served. No walking track, which we could discuss certainly, but from a size standpoint, I would say, Vicky, when you're doing, have you been in, Vicky? Have you seen it?
Yes, I have. And
I don't think we'd need something bigger than what's there.
Okay. I do have a meeting with the director this afternoon from Trent Hills, so I can talk about that with him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite nice. Like, they've done quite a nice job.
Yeah.
I also, as we talk about the pool, I think, the pool is even further beyond a second pad. So I would almost, I know we want to put some reference in there because the community is asking for it, but I think this will be a very clear opportunity to say it's not happening anytime in the near future, if ever, because the affordability is just not there. And a pool will never run anything but a deficit.
Yeah. I feel like Eunice from the Y, I feel like I'm remembering that she said they got some capital funding. They got a grant for Campbellford because of their involvement in that project, but I don't know what it was. We should probably find that out too.
I would expect they would have had to, for sure.
Yeah, and then at what point in these sorts of next steps, decision path kind of things on these feasibility report like this, is it like, well, maybe there's some surplus land or something that the municipality owns that could be sold or something? I mean, is that too presumptuous to sort of put in something like this, or
I think so. Yeah, there's nothing out there right now that's been in discussion, and I would hate to throw something in there and start rumors about the municipality selling off pieces of property. But
yeah, fair. Yeah, okay.
It's a good thing to bring up, and certainly from staff's end, it's something we could talk about and,
Mhm.
take to council if there was something, but I don't think anything in this report would want to move forward.
Yep, fair. Okay, so I think that's where the meat of our efforts will be for the next revision to this document. Is describing that next steps. And are there any other comments anybody has on this? Because if not, I think we should go to sort of schedule and say, okay, when is the next round due? And then when are we going to meet, so that I don't sling it at everybody the day before our meeting? Cool. Okay.
How much time would you need to put something else together, John?
Like, I think it's mainly text stuff, I think. And we'll kind of, Jacob and I will talk together about how quickly we can do this. But I'm thinking like even a couple weeks to give ourselves a deadline of a couple weeks to modify the text and circulate it as a next round. But what I wonder is, okay, we'll circulate this. It'll be a discussion of the next steps piece. And do we need to have another meeting about it? Or is it more, here's the language, you guys, like, maybe it's a question about process. How do we want to do? We're happy to attend whatever meetings need to happen. Just wondering about process. If we circulate in 2 weeks, does that mean we need another meeting a week following that, so everyone has a chance to digest again? And then maybe that will be the final meeting together before we have crystallized this thing? Or are we close enough now that we don't need another meeting, and it's all about finalizing the report, circulating it, and getting comments? What are the thoughts on that?
John, I think if you can make these edits in the next couple weeks, you'd also talked about working on updated 3D imagery, which is that something you'd want to present as well?
That'll be part of it. Yeah, that'll be part of those updates. Like we've got a decent start at it. The report that I circulated to you guys did not include updated 3D, but the one that I shared on the screen here at least shows a baseline of we've started making progress with it, and it sounds like we don't have to change too much about the geometries shown on there. And really, the edits we spoke about today are more text-based, which has more certainty to it when we're kind of working through those, as opposed to design iterations, which always it's more difficult to pin down timelines on those.
Yeah, so I would suggest, unless anyone else has a concern with it, is that give yourself ample time to make these changes and do the imagery work you want to do. And we will set up a meeting, another committee meeting a week after that. Because we're still, there was like Elena asked the question about, or the comment about what's in the phases and what are the steps in the phases and what are those costs. So there's still some breakdown of costs we should discuss before we say this is a done deal. So that's my suggestion.
Okay, that sounds good.
I agree, Bill. And Stephen isn't here for one too, so it'd be nice to have the entire committee here. And this document, I'm sure most haven't reviewed it. So maybe once you have the chance to make those changes, and then give the committee a week or maybe 2, depending on the timing, to really review it in detail, and then come back as a group and make sure that everybody's happy with it before it goes.
Okay, that sounds great.
Even if you want to prepare it and then set the meeting after, so that
we're not
to, last minute. If we're going to give the committee 2 weeks, we can, say once the report's ready, Jessica can send out a quick request for availability, but kind of gauge about 2 weeks after you've completed it, and then that way there's ample time for review.
Love it. Yes, that's great.
John, if we're thinking that 2 weeks are too expensive, does that make your next report little more efficient if you can eliminate a whole building out of the mix.
Yes, that are you? I can't tell if you're joking or if you're serious right now, Jim. Uh, uh, if we eliminate a building like one of the pads, you mean?
How does that impact the whole negotiations with the junior hockey team? That like that was news at our last meeting. Has there been any further development, or is it all hinging on this plan? Is it going to happen regardless? I don't know.
Yeah, so Herman, that was just brought up as a point of interest.
Yeah.
There's nothing signed, sealed, or delivered in that respect. It was just an example of future use that we'd have to consider when we're looking at the long-term viability of a facility like this. Yeah, there's no update on that, but it was more or less just an example of what could happen, and if who knows what the interest will be, and that's why we had kind of wanted to bring the attention to a potential second pad, whether that was a future phase or whatever, but make sure that the feasibility study speaks to it, and then when design comes, that we're designing something that would accommodate that future use, and that would include anything we've talked about as future use, not just the second pad.
Remember, we started this whole thing based upon the needs of the community now and near future, not necessarily for this other team coming in at all. It's what people in our neighborhood need, not necessarily to facilitate a hockey team. So if it's a really nice arena for us as opposed to two pads, that would be maybe one of the options.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. Like that's the concept of any team coming to Brighton doesn't really impact anything. It was just really an example of, there are interests outside of our current needs, and it's something you would want to consider in a feasibility study, right? Whether it gets built or not.
So it's kind of like the feasibility study is trying to spell out, this is kind of the biggest sort of potential development for this site. Here's some defenses of how the demand works with what's shown as kind of the largest build out. And then it intends to break down that build out into component parts so that things can be chopped off as budget dictates. So hopefully the report does not read like there's a twin pad now, because even that wasn't, to your point, Jim, wasn't even a for sure thing. But pointing to the hockey team just shows more demand, I guess. And there is enough demand, it seemed like, from our conversations, to have a twin pad, even without that hockey team. So maybe just good to show that, hey, the two pads could work on this site with parking, but here's how much it costs.
Yeah, and that's right, John. Like when we look at our usage, we're looking at what our needs are now, and Vicky can attest to this. We don't really have much available space with current bookings, and we have turned groups away for prime time ice time, and maybe that's just the reality, and maybe lots of places are like that. But we also look ahead. What are the community needs? If we're turning people away, is the demand going to increase, or is it just this is the type of arena we're going to have, and we'll have to turn interested groups away? But that's all part of the process. So as we work through the discussions, that's how that second pad became part of the discussion, and not so much related to any one specific need, but we're essentially at capacity currently. So there's only so many hours for one rink, right, to book. So
Curiosity, Bill. To make this all a little more palatable, you present to the council just a new pad now and leave the existing pad, keeping in mind that, in all honesty, before this new pad becomes functional, we're talking at least 5 years from now. So 2031. At that time, maybe the requirements, maybe the lifespan of that existing pad is more apparent. Yeah, this one's reached its end of life. And yes, by now we do need a second pad. At this point, you only build a single pad and intend to keep that existing pad and just run its full lifespan and not make it part of the current plan that's going to be way too much money and force their hand to decide that, yeah, that's not going to happen, guys. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, for sure, Herman. That was actually discussed. I know Vicky and I chatted about that offline from the committee meetings about, next steps and just, how some of the concepts that were discussed, how they could actually be operated if it were phased in, however it was phased in. So we'd have to look at that for sure. The feasibility study looks at, can we do what we hope to be able to do for the community? And the whole process is revolved around how do we use the current space as well until such time that we don't. So I think that discussion would absolutely come in there. Maintaining the existing rink as a secondary pad would probably have impacts on the community space that we've talked about in these concepts as well. But again, those are all things that I think would play out, during design and priorities set by council coming out of the final feasibility study. It's no decisions will be made in the next couple of years, right? So this is going to be long-term planning, but I could see that certainly being conceptually something to consider.
Okay.
Okay. So we have our marching orders, and we'll circulate some updates from this conversation. I think we might also want to kind of add a little bit of language in the purpose of the study section too, at the very beginning of the report. Like we talk about how, what is this thing for? But maybe we could do a bit of a better job of highlighting that this is to show what could be done on the site, like you say, Bill, and try to make it clear what some of the levers are, so that decisions can be made using it as a tool. I feel like unless there's any more questions, though, that we're done presenting this thing for now.
You suggested next time when you think you could have a report going, and then
and what I loved about what Ilana said is like, we'll circulate our updates, which I'm thinking in 2 weeks is roughly when we'll have the updates to circulate to Bill, who can then circulate it to the committee. But then to assign a meeting time. Is that okay?
So tentatively, your target is, say, March 4th, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then time to review likely will get us into a meeting situation, hopefully on March the 19th, which is 4 weeks from tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that does make sense.
It's my preference to have that meeting Thursday, either AM or PM, than Wednesdays.
Afternoon is better for me.
Yep.
That's the 19th.
Okay, can we book that though once we have the report?
Sure.
I don't, people's schedules change. I think that's, I don't know if that's March break or not. Maybe not. But let's just get the report, and then I'll ask Jessica once it's received. I'll get her to send the report out, Bill, whenever you've had a chance to look at it, and you're good. And then with that report, she can ask for dates availability. But I will tell her Thursdays are better than Wednesdays unless she's listening, which she might be.
Of course, I'm listening.
I won't need to repeat this to her. So we'll aim to accommodate the schedule, but we'll wait till we have the report to confirm.
Okay, so it remains to be decided. Do I have a movement for adjournment for this meeting?
Sure. I move.
Seconder?
I will.
Thanks, Herman. Okay, folks, thank you very much for this
Thank you.
TV show.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks all. Have a great day.
Thanks,
you.
Safe traveling.
Same to you, sir.
Thank you.